Hello, today I'm in Minneapolis at one of my very favorite places to walk to practice to just be, which is Lake Bde Maka Ska, formerly known as Lake Calhoun. And if you look out, you can even see downtown Minneapolis in the background, kind of next to the tree. I'd love to practice in front of the lake, but because of lighting issues, I'm going to practice in front of some trees so you can actually see me. All right, so let's start by getting what you need. Today is going to be primarily a standing practice, so you'll really just need 2 blocks and your body and a place to move. So start by lifting your toes. As you do that, root down at the base of your toes, your heels, and encourage your spine to lengthen up. Notice if your breath changes, or notice if you just notice your breath. Bring your toes on down. Go ahead and interlace your fingers, reach your palms forward. Take your arms up just until they reach that stopping point and lengthen through them. Lengthen through the base of the palms. And then release your fingers and take your arms on down. As you do that, externally rotate the arms. And again, lift your toes. Root down at the base of the toes, the heels. Lengthen up with your spine all the way up through the crown of your head. Bring your toes back down. Let your jaw soften. Notice that you're breathing. And then begin to breathe a little more actively. The inhalation, the sense of expansion. Exhalation, rooting down to lift up. You can have your eyes open or closed. I find when I inhale and I'm really paying attention, my arms actually automatically want to widen a little. So go ahead and do that, whether that happens automatically or not. Inhale, encourage the arms to widen with expansiveness. Exhale, lower them down. So a few times at your own pace, own breath. Inhale, expansiveness. Exhale, release. So don't take the arms up any higher than shoulder height. Just going inhaling and exhaling. Inhale and exhale. The next time, as you continue to reach through the pinky fingers, take your arms up a little higher than your shoulders. You may notice the spine needs to round a little bit. Round by I mean open, extend. Not really round forward, but actually lift up. So the roundedness is in the front of the spine, not the back of the spine. Right? So that when our arms come up higher than shoulder height, to go higher without hurting the back, we need to really lift the chest. The head may move as well because it's all connected. So a few more times. Inhale with that expansiveness. Exhale. Arms down. Inhale, expanding. Exhale, release. Next time, take your arms up, keep them there. Lift the toes, root down with the base of the toes, the heels. Lengthen up with the fingers. Good. And then release. Roll your shoulders a few times. And as you're rolling your shoulders, I'm going to disappear for a moment and I will come back, but keep rolling your shoulders. And breathing. Just preparing for getting more parts to move. All right, so take your feet, what would be a little wider than hips distance, mat distance apart. We've got the shoulders moving. And now circle the hips, something, as you know, I do often because it's such a great thing to do. My plan for today is to do a lot of different standing poses, exploring them. So before we get into those shapes, circle the hips the other directions. Warming up some of the joints or really getting access. Warming up is not always the intention. Part of it is just getting the mobility. When you get the mobility in the joints, switch directions again, it sends messages to the brain that it's safer to move the muscles. So that's why sometimes if you're really stiff, if you haven't been moving and you move the joints a little, it's one of the reasons why all of a sudden you can become more flexible or really have more mobility. Okay, come back to mountain pose. Lift your toes, root down at the base of the toes, the heels, lengthen up with the spine. Breathe. Then take your feet a little bit wide, and this next position is more with momentum, and it's really important when you do this to lift your heel. So we're going to start a little twisting. I'm twisting to the left, your left, as I lift the right heel, and then go the other direction. I'm going to start small. And then I can make it a little bit bigger. By bigger, I mean a little bit more of a twist. Okay, you might notice your hands kind of fly. You can intentionally place them. I have to be careful of the microphone, so I'm not going to do too much too high, but you can place them against the shoulders, against the chest. Sometimes it's nice in the back body to get a little tap around the kidneys. Turn your head. All right, and then begin to slow it down. And come back to center, lift the toes again, root down at the base of the toes, heels, lengthen all the way up through the crown of your head. And then it's time for big asana. Take your arms and legs wide, take up a lot of space. So feeling our sense of space in different directions. We've got the grounding down to lift up. We've got the moving from the center to reach out. So reach through your pinky finger, your fourth finger, third finger, second finger. Keep the shoulder blades down the back, then bring your palms together. Press the palms in towards each other, reach the elbows wide. As you do that, lift the fingers away from each other. Again, rooting down with the palms, lengthen the fingers. Bring your fingers back together and keep this moving from in to out with the elbows, but take it into your hands again. Reach nice and wide. Roll your arms so your palms face up towards the ceiling, towards the sky. From the space between your shoulder blades, look out over your right arm. Come back to center. Look out over your left arm. Come back to center. Take your arms up like a cactus. Now take the shoulder blades down the back as you do this. Walk your feet a little closer together as you hold this position. Lift the toes, root down at the base of the toes, the heels, drop on the muscles of the legs, bring your toes on down. Then tilt your elbows a little forward, the forearms go a little bit backwards. So you're not taking the ribs, no rib thrusting here, just get into the shoulder blades a little bit more. Hold for a moment, and then take the shoulders down, roll them a few times. And then take your legs wide again. I'm just going to move the blocks out of the way because I don't need them yet. Legs wide again. Getting a little more hip warming up. Right leg in, left leg out. Deepen the crease at the top of the thigh. Up and down. Just a few times. Keep your spine nice and long as you do so. And then come back up, other direction. Left leg in, right leg out. Bending and straightening. All right, and then turn your toes forward. Walk your feet together. And I want to play with putting our legs in a little bit different positions for the knee. So generally what we just did is a classic position, knee over ankle, opening up the hip. But there's a lot of other positions you can go to, which most times in yoga postures, yoga classes, they say to have this exact alignment. But in regular life, right, our knees are going in different directions. They're not always going over the ankles, and our hips are not always facing the same direction. So I like to play around with building a greater repertoire, greater body map. So take your right foot forward and bend it and straighten it a few times. As you do that, encourage your spine to stay long. So I'm taking it about a big step forward. So this one could consider this kind of to be, whoa, warrior two, warrior one. Balance can be an issue. And then do it again with the toe. Turn the toes out and bend the knees slightly. Be careful, if this doesn't feel good, don't go into pain. You might make the movement very slow. But I'm turning my leg out, getting a little more rotation in the hip. We're going to be doing a lot of standing poses that require external rotation. So I'm going to focus on that with these different compass positions. Turn your toes back and then step into mountain for a moment, and now go at about a 45-degree angle. Take the toes and bend and straighten. Again, torso's facing forward as you bend and straighten the leg. Deepen the crease at the top of the thigh. And then lift your toes, turn the leg out, still torso forward, deepen the crease at the top of the thigh. Fancy way for saying bend your knees, or actually, it's not just that it's fancy, it gives you a little bit different way of conceiving of coming into it. Right, turn the toes forward, come back to center. Now let's go to the side, what we did before, but this time keep the knees straight to start with. And then externally rotate the leg, bend the knees. So come back to where we were earlier. And you can guess that if you could do this, you could spend hours doing this, all the different rotations. So I like to just play around different days, do different rotations, different ways to build our body map. Back to center a moment, and let's go to the other leg. So take your right leg forward, bend and straighten a few times. And then lift your toes, turn them out. Get that rotation. Turn the foot so it's facing forward, bring the feet together, and then 45-degree angle. Again, I think I've said this many times right now, starting with the toes facing straight. And then lift your toes, turn it out to the side. And turn your toes back, come back to mountain, and then to the side. So bending and straightening. And then turn the toes out. And bring it back to center. Take a moment, mountain pose. Let's inhale, take the arms up. And exhale, release down. A few times. Inhale up. Exhale down. Next time, take the arms a little higher. Maybe a lot higher. Bend the elbows enough so you can interlace your fingers. Reach your palms up towards the sky, towards the ceiling. Nice length and breath. Release your fingers. Palms face each other. Take a hold of your left wrist and lengthen up. As you lengthen and side bend, there's a little spiral there. Extra curvy folks, you know what to do, or if you don't, ask me. I'm going to do the same side. Everybody else, switch sides. Inhale, come back up. Back to mountain, rolling the shoulders a few times. All right, so standing poses require mobility and stability. So to work on the stability a little, do a little for the glute med, these lovely side parts of our body. So I'd like you to lift your right leg, because we're working on this part, and notice, do you sink when you do that? Hold for a moment. Bring your fingers to your hip points. Encourage your hip points to stay at the same level. That's a way to play with the balance. And then release. Stand on both feet and second side. So left leg comes up, right side hip is stabilizing. And then release. Now, next time we're going to add some movement to that. So feet grounding, spine lengthening, lift the right leg again, so you're stabilizing on the left. Bring your hands to your hip points, and now draw your right hip down to lift the left hip point up, and then come back to neutral. So some of you may be doing this like doing clams, which are great also lying down. But we really want to also do the exercise, the strengthening exercise and movements that we actually use. Now, yes, we don't go up and down like this. However, we do go a little up and down when we walk. Just this stepping forward is using that movement of the hip lifting. Come back down, little shake, little shimmy. If you feel a little tension there, let's play with the balance. Use a wall or a tree if you need it. Bend the knee, spiral the thigh. Take your ankle, maybe stay here, maybe go a little further down. And then come back up. Shake and shimmy, second side. Bend the right knee. Oops, sorry, bend the left knee. There we go. And up and down. Feel the hip points lifting and lowering. So you take it a little higher. Don't go below. Don't take your left hip point below your right when you do that. That's can be a little too much for the hip joint for some of us. And then back to standing. To release this, bend the knee, take the foot out to the side, take your ankle over your thigh, bending down. And then come back up. So now we've created a little more awareness, stability in the upper outer thighs. Jump or walk your legs wide. Let's come into warrior two, real warrior two. Right leg in, left leg out. Root down with the back leg, send that energy down. When it goes down, it goes up into the spine. And then deepen the crease at the top of the front thigh. Choose what feels like a good depth in the thigh by figuring out how wide to take the legs. Then your arms come on up. Look out over your left arm. Don't forget about the right arm. Take a look at it. You might have a tendency to lift one hand or something. Sometimes tension goes into the wrist without us even knowing it. You might catch me doing that some of the time. All right, and then to come up, root down with the back leg. Inhale, come up, bring the palms together, second side. Left leg in, right leg out. Inhale again, arms up. Exhale. Look out over the right arm. Take a quick peek at your left arm. And then come back up, hands to the hips, and hinge forward. Just a hinge, getting the length in the spine. And then come back up. Walk or hop your feet together. And then grab the two blocks. So you can get there however you want. We're going to come into a lunge. I'm going to start in mountain pose and hinge forward. Bring my hands to the blocks. Take the blocks by my feet and take the right leg back into a lunge. So lunge position, I'm going to encourage you to keep your hands on the blocks to keep your spine nice and long. Reach through the back heel. And then take your thumb to the hip point and spiral the upper outer thigh while keeping the knee above the ankle. That can help build the stability and the mobility at the same time. To feel more the mobility, take I've got my left foot forward, you got your left foot forward, but I'm not mirroring you anymore. So take the back leg down, lift your toes, take the leg out to the side, and then open up just a little bit in here. And only if it feels good, move around a little. Explore that range of movement. Okay, and then lift your toes and take the left leg forward, whichever leg forward. Tuck your back toes under. Now, walk your hand that's on the leg that's backwards, a little bit over to the big toe. Take the other finger to the hip point, and without moving the knee or the hip, spiral, open up the spine. This is a variation of a pose called Bde Maka Ska, which is revolved side angle pose. It's actually a very challenging pose, so be careful with it. And then go ahead and unwind. Bring your back knee into the ground. Take the other leg back. Let's do 3 hip circles, one direction. I guess I said we do everything standing. Almost. This is almost. I just felt lunges would be a really good addition to preparing for this practice. Second direction. All right, and then opposite foot forward. So right foot forward. Between your hands into a lunge. Long reach through the back leg. Breathe. Take the thumb to the hip point. Spiral the upper outer thigh open. Hold there for a moment. All right, and then bend the back knee. Take your block a little bit to the foot. Oops, sorry, not the block. Turn your toes out and create a little range of motion, mobility. One of the things that happens when we get to the lake is we get some spontaneous music as well. All right, go ahead and lift the toes and come back into the lunge. Take the block under your left hand, bring it to the base of the big toe, and take the right thumb to the hip point, spiral open. Right hand on the sacrum. Focusing on the twist and keeping the stability in the pelvis. And then go ahead, unwind, back knee on the ground, right knee to meet it. 3 circles, one direction. 3 circles the other direction. And back to standing. Now you can get there any way you want. I'm going to get there through forward bend, tucking the toes under, lifting up, and back up to standing. Take a moment, mountain pose. Going from mountain pose. All right, so from mountain pose, let's come into tree pose. There's so many great trees around. They sure are inspiring. Remember the hip, bend the left knee, spiral the thigh, take your foot below or above your knee. Your variation today of tree. If you see a tree around here that inspires you to take up a few different shapes, go ahead and do that. And then release, take a moment. Second side, bend the right knee, spiral the thigh, foot below or above. And then release. Little shake, little shimmy. Come on back to the lunge. So whatever way works for you to get there, maybe folding forward, maybe coming to your hands and knees. Take your right foot backwards into a lunge. Just like we did earlier, knee in line with hip. But we're going to play with coming into side angle from here. So reaching through the back leg, begin to pivot the back heel without taking the hip too much to the side. It might go a little bit, but another way to play with that is to walk your right foot a little to the right. And then begin to spiral. Open the spine. Root down with your hand and take your right arm up and over. Find that Parsvakonasana, side angle. Long reach through the back leg. Side angles both sides. The top side, the bottom side. Noticing my wrist. All right, then go ahead and unwind, release the back heel. And your choice to take the knees down to child's pose, dog pose, or just rock the hips a little bit. And then second side, Parsvakonasana, left foot forward, right foot forward. Reach through the back heel. Pivot the back heel. Spiral your spine. Take the arm up and over. Pay attention if you got some extra curves. I'm not going to take my arm over because of my spine. And then unwind. Release the back heel. Take the back leg down. Knees come together. Again, your choice. I'm going to rock the hips a little side to side. And then make your way to standing, maybe from Uttanasana, maybe somehow else. Up to standing. And let's try Parsvakonasana from standing. Just experienced it from the lunge. Let's try from standing, so take your legs wide again. Have the blocks. You saw me non-elegantly get the blocks. I have the blocks by your foot. Take your right leg in, left leg out. Take your arms on up. Nice big expansiveness. Exhale, bend your front knee. And then start by taking your right hand onto your sacrum. Reach your left arm up. Keep that nice and long. And as you keep it long, reach it out in the direction of your leg, past your leg. Bend the elbow. Press the forearm into the thigh so that the shoulder blade is firm as you spiral your spine. Now from here you can choose to stay or reach for your block and choose a different height. Remember the lunge, the hip point, the sit bone going to the back heel. Important part of this pose. Again, find the variation of the arms that works for you. Breathe. And then to come up, root down with the back leg. Inhale, come up. Exhale, release the arms. Second side, left leg in, right leg out. Inhale, arms up. Take the back hand to the sacrum. Lengthen up a little bit on the right side and bend the front knee. Then reach out. As you reach, keep the length on both sides. Bring your forearm onto the thigh. Press the forearm down. Open up the spine. Reach up with the arm. Breathe. Maybe the top hand goes to a block, maybe even to the ground. See how it feels for you today. Top hand reaches up and over. And then to come up, root down with the back leg. Inhale. Come up, straightening the front leg. There's variations, I'll just say, that show you can come up by keeping the front leg straight into warrior two, or you can come up by straightening the leg, which for most people is a little bit easier doing it that way. Bend your knees, reach for your blocks, take them out in front, hinge forward, maybe walk your hands even further forward, root down with the feet, engaging the arms. And then walk your hands back and inhale, come up. Standing and bring your feet together. Mountain pose. Grounding down to lift up. From mountain pose, let's do a little bit more to create that mobility in the hips. So grab a block and stand with your left leg on the block. So Tadasana, I've been doing this one a lot lately, is stability. Get that left leg engaged, and now add to it by little circles of the right leg. Start with keeping the toes facing forward, circling out to the side. Again, you might use a wall to help. And if you get tired, take a break, do a little shimmy, take a little walk around, and then switch directions. You can take your hands here and feel the muscles engaging. Now what I'd like you to do is to externally rotate the leg, and keeping the leg externally rotated, still circle. Little circles. Being careful not to sink here. Keep this stable. And as you make the circles, vary the position where they are. Have them in front. Take them a little to the side. And you may notice there's a spot where it's a little harder for me. Actually, right here, interesting. It's a little harder. Take the leg a little bit back. Again, remember, take a break. I'm starting to feel a little bit fatigue in those muscles. All right, and then release if you haven't already. Left ankle over the thigh. A little bit of balance. Open up. Come on up, and second side. Stand with your right leg. Give it a little stability there. And circle one direction. So what I like about this movement is you're actually really engaging, creating stability, strength on both legs, right? The one is stability without any movement, which is really the definition of stability. What I mean is that one is you're not moving, this is a stabilizing, and when you're circling the other leg, you're also building the muscle, strengthening the muscle, getting the muscle engaged, so that when you do different postures, you'll have more strength there. So even though we're moving, we're building the ability to be stable in movement and in stillness. All right, so now externally rotate the leg. You may find that doing the second side is a little more challenging because we're already fatigued. Little circles. Changing the position. Find where it's a little more challenging. Where it's a little easier, you can change the direction of the circle. Today I'm doing little ones. Other days we might do bigger ones. Okay, I think that's enough for me. I found myself sinking. Come on down. And take the right ankle over. Open up the hip a little. Take the feet about hips distance apart. Let's do a few circles. One way, the other way. And now bring the stability into another standing pose. It's time for Ardha Chandrasana. So have your block, one block within reach. And big asana. You can have both blocks because you know we're going to do both sides. Big asana. Right leg in, left leg out. So the stability is very much in this outer hip when we go up into the pose, but also in the back leg to keep the back leg open. So we'll bend the knee, take your hand to the block. So basic warrior two position, and then shift your weight onto the left foot. Take the heel off the ground. Now, you might be able to lift up from here. I need to hop my back foot a little bit further forward. And then take the hand forward as I simultaneously shift the weight all the way into the left leg and lift the right leg. And begin to spiral the spine open. Reach through the heel. Take your other arm on up. Maybe. And there are variations. You might take the leg higher than parallel to the ground or parallel to the ground. Right? Parallel looks like it's got nice symmetry. Higher is a little different. Different feeling in the body. Looking up to the hand for me makes the balance a little more challenging, maybe for you too. Feel free to come down, come up. Challenging the balance. Holding it longer is more challenging. Whoop-ah! Okay, so come on out. Maybe not that way, but maybe a little more slowly. Take a moment. We're going to come back into it again. This time you might choose to not have as much height. So I'm going to do it this time without the block. You can choose the same, or you can go a little lower. So left leg, right leg in, left leg out. Bend the front knee. Lean and lift. When my hand is lower, I find I like to have my other leg higher. So in this position, this doesn't feel right. Anatomically, it doesn't feel right on my sacrum when my arm is lower. It I'd like to blame that one on the wind, but I won't. All right. And then to come out, take your time, slowly bend the front leg. Inhale, come up. Hands to hips, second side. Whew. Okay, a little shake and shimmy in between. So bend the front knee. Shift the weight onto the front leg. I just realized I'm on a down slope. That's what's going on. Take your hand onto the block. Hop a little forward. Right. Ground down to lift up. Take the arm on up. Play a little with where you put the leg, parallel, a little bit of an angle, depending on what feels best in the sacrum. Maybe look up. Play with that balance. Reach through the fingers. And when you're ready to come down, go slow. And release. One more time. Left leg in, right leg out. Shift the weight onto the right leg. And maybe without the block this time. Play with balance. And then take your time to release. Left foot forward. If your blocks are within reach, that is great. If not, walk your feet together, get your blocks. For wide-legged forward fold, start with the blocks. Come into the fold a little more elegantly. Fold forward. Walk your hands. Wide-legged forward fold with the arms forward. Breathing. And then take your hands back under your shoulders. And bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, come up. Walk your feet together. So all of the standing poses we've done so far have been with the, or almost all, we did the twist in the lunge, but other than that, it's been where we're turning away from the front leg. And now I'm going to do a pose that you're actually a little bit of a twist towards the front leg, but not a lot, because it's a one-legged balance pose that requires a lot here, which is ultimately Virabhadrasana 3. But we're going to start it by doing what some people call airplane. So go ahead and shift your weight onto your right leg. Lift the left leg up. Play with the balance, and we're going to do I don't know, maybe this is a helicopter. Take your leg back with the knee bent, and then come back up. As you do this, keep your arms by your side. So, leg comes up, and play with going back. Just a few times, and as you rock back and forth, you might become more parallel, move towards parallel to the ground with the torso. Now, to the eye, it will look like one hip is higher than the other. And generally, for most of us, it actually is the case to some extent, but not as much as it actually looks. Because this is very different in half-moon pose, right? The hips are stacked sideways, the hip points over each other. In this pose, we keep the hip points trying to keep them in the same plane, which is actually very challenging. Oops, I got ahead of myself. So, one more time, keeping the knees bent. I was straightening the leg already. And then take a moment, little shake, and second side. So bend the knee, keep the knee bent, take it out in front, find that balance, and then shift back. This is kind of like those birds that go up and down, I guess. So take it slow. think it's now lunchtime. There are more people walking around the lake. A lot of people come here for lunch break. A couple more times. So you might see how those hip strengtheners we did are super important for this pose. And then release. Bend your knees a little and circle the hips one direction. Get a little more fluidity. Keep the spine extending. And then circle your hips the other way. Okay, now we'll bring it into airplane. This is a challenging pose for many reasons. One is it's the strength here, but it requires a lot of strength through the torso as well. Go ahead and lift your left leg. Take your arms by your side and then reach your leg back. And this is a pose that's hard for me to gauge my alignment when I don't have anything to look at. I try to feel it, but it's hard. So you might keep your fingers by your side, reaching close, touching your sides, or take them out to the side like an airplane where you're flying. Breathe. Maybe you feel some turbulence as you go. Good, and then come back up. And second side. Shift the weight. Maybe arms by the side, touching your side, or arms out to the side as if you're flying. Notice this would be coming towards half moon, which I don't want to do. Working the hip points. And then release. Good, a little shake, a little shimmy. Any hip movement you want to do. Mix it up a little side to side. Little figure eights. Little spinal fluidity. That pose can make you really tight because of the challenge of it. So another way to do this is with the arms overhead. There's a lot of different ways to get into it. Today, since we've been starting with the one leg, I'll do it that way, where you go ahead and lift your left leg. Keep the arms long, so then begin to shift like we just did. But this time, as you shift, extend the leg. So this is full variation of Virabhadrasana 3. If you find this a little too challenging or not good with your back, stick to one of the earlier variations. And then release. Whoop. And second side. Take the arms up. Begin to shift the weight. Keep the reach through the arms. Breathe. Final younger variation is looking forward. You can feel how it's not just a leg hip strengthener, but very much a back strengthener. And then release. Ooh, good. Roll the shoulders a few times. I find this is the kind of pose where if you don't do it for a while, but you've been practicing, it gets a lot easier because it requires all these elements of strength. Not as much flexibility, but a lot of strength. There's some mobility in the hips, but not as much as some of the other poses. Take a moment, mountain pose. Feel the echo of that pose. And then let's come into wide-legged forward bend again. Get the blocks if you use them. And hinge forward. Hands on the blocks, or this time fingertips on the ground if that works for your body. This is more of as a way of neutralizing the pelvis after we did the one-legged poses, not about how low you can go. You might bend those a little bit, but notice I am not rounding my spine forward. Stay breathing. And then to come up, either legs straight or knees bent. Just checking to make sure my microphone is still working. Walk the feet together. So another standing pose that requires a stability, very challenging pose, is Pavrita Ardha Chandrasana, which is revolved half moon. So remember the half moon we did before, we're turning away from the front leg. This half moon you're turning towards the front leg. I haven't practiced this one for a while. So let's see how it goes. Let's start with the legs wide. You're going to need one block. You can put the other one off to the side or leave it where it is. It doesn't look good on camera when it's just hanging out there. Right foot in, left foot out. Now, lift the back heel, pivot. So you're facing in the direction of your hips, and then bend the front knee. So I don't want to spend too much time in this warrior one type position. Bend the front knee. It's going to relieve some of the pressure in the back. You get a rotation in the front leg. Then grab your block and begin to shift the weight into the front leg. Lift the back leg. Just like warrior two, except now you spiral the spine open. Warrior one, sorry. Spiral the spine open to the right. Maybe the arm comes up. I'm not feeling that today. I don't think I've got it in my spine for that today. Reach through the back leg, root down with the front leg, spiral the spine open, and then to come down, bend the front knee, and inhale, come up, and second side. Left leg in, right leg out, hand on the block, bend the front knee, take the block with you, lift the back leg. So this is a nice way to actually play with building warrior three, and then begin to spiral. Spiral the spine. And then to release, bend the front knee, take the back leg down. Inhale, come up, turn the legs forward, feet forward, and this time come into a more fuller expression of Prasarita Padottanasana, hands on blocks, or let your spine release towards the ground. Opportunity for a fuller inversion. Let the spine go, let your jaw soften, let your breath flow. Trees look really cool when they look upside down. And then to come up, bend your knees, bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, come on up. Stand in mountain pose. So at the beginning of this session, I said everything was standing. Everything we did, a few lunges, not quite standing, but I'm going to give you the choice with that in mind, depending where you are, to spend a little time in Tadasana until you feel ready to go about your day, or make your way to the floor, especially if you feel you want some release in your lower back. Make your way to the ground. And I wasn't sure which way to go with the camera. And bend your knees. Go ahead, lie on down. Take your feet a little wider than your hips. Take your knees over to the left, the Elvis position. Gentle spiral of the spine. And then inhale, come up, and spiral the other way. And inhale, come up. And take your arms by your side. Time for Shavasana. Close your eyes. Let the breath flow. Let the flow of the breath guide you to Shavasana, to relaxation. Slowly and gently, without any additional movement quite yet, bring your awareness back to your body and back to your breath. Let your breath flow. Then, bring a little movement to your fingers. Bring a little movement to your toes. Reach a little through your arms, reach a little through your legs, and roll over to your side. Stay there a moment, and when you're ready, come on up to a comfortable seated position. Find your sit bones, encourage them to ground down so your spine lengthens up. Bring your palms together over your heart, and may the practice today support you to experience a greater sense of comfort, joy, ease, and freedom. Namaste. So thanks for watching. Sorry at the last minute I ran out of space, so I had to do a voiceover for Shavasana, but you got the rest of the class. And I've been experimenting with teaching in different locations. This is really one of my favorite all-time places in the world. I spent a lot of time there over my life. Let me know if you like doing this in different locations, as I'll try to do more if I get feedback about that. That is positive. For this class, great thing to do as to preparations for walking, hip opening, finding that balance of mobility and stability. and something for you to explore for yourself, what you feel you might need a little bit more of, especially in some of those more advanced standing poses like Warrior 3 and Pavrita Parshvakonasana. You can begin to sense, is it the stability that's holding me back? Is it the strength? Is it the mobility? What is it? And as you continue to practice, you can hone in on those needs. So once again, thanks for watching. Aloha, namaste, greetings from the land of sky blue waters.